Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. We've got one of the funniest human beings on the planet today that somehow morphed into one of the greatest writer, director, actors working in TV today, and I'm sure film very soon. It's the Keith Morrison doppelganger of my dreams, of my heart and soul. It's the one and only Bill Hader. Hey, Bill.
Hey, how's it going, bud?
It's so good to see you, man. Congrats on Barry, the final season. This is where I tell the audience, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Don't miss the conversation because there is about to be magic coming out of that brain on my Zoom screen.
That massive head that you see.
The sheer girth of it. Something has to come out.
Like, especially right here, it's just a massive brain.
Welcome officially to the podcast for the very first time, Bill Hader. Despite our many chats, you've never done the long form, soul searching deep dive. So I appreciate the time.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
So where are you at? We were just saying when you hopped on the Zoom, this must be kind of an unusual time. Like presumably it's all wrapped. It's done. I've seen the first 7 episodes.
It's not fully done. We are, so we're mixing right now. So the episodes you saw, only 1 through 5 were completely done. And then 6, 7, and 8 we're still everything and doing visual effects on. Yesterday I had a visual effects meeting and we realized our next meeting is our very last one. And everyone got real sad because I love Laura Hill and our visual effects team are just amazing. So, it's just we're coming up to that stuff. We have my last color correction with Carl Hersey, the director. And Dave, the colorist, were just beautiful people. And so it's just been a series of these kind of bittersweet
little goodbyes and
goodbyes, so it's tough, but then it's nice that, people seem to like the show who've seen it. So it's really nice.
Well, talk to me a little bit about, let's go back to the beginnings of Barry for a second, because when you launched this with Alec I'm sure you must have had the concern that were people going to accept it, considering your track record, your history, primarily, known primarily for comedy, for SNL, et cetera. Were you gratified, shocked that the critics, the audience received it in the way it was intended in that first season?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I knew I liked it, but I don't, you don't know, as I've learned on SNL, you can like something, but it doesn't mean the audience is going to really enjoy it. But the only way I can really do anything is you just try to do it for yourself and what's right for the story. And, hopefully people will like it. But yeah, I was really surprised, and it's funny too, because at that time, everyone was like, wow, this is really dark.
Right.
And now if you go back to the first season,
it's like Full House. Yeah.
It's Full House compared to where it went. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is interesting. Yeah.
Is part of that where the story just had to go dictated by the characters and the arcs, or is it part of it like having kind of like, oh, I know I have license to do that now. They're willing to go on this journey.
Yeah. It was more of the former thing, it's the characters are going in a certain direction. And I think from the get-go, we never wanted the show to feel the violence to feel funny or glib or, that's why, Janice Moss in the first season dies. And it was for me, I was like, we have to be reminded of Janice Moss for the whole series. Her name comes up every episode, and because when someone dies, you don't forget them. So it affects so many people forever. So I thought it illustrated what Barry's been doing to people very well. And to hold on to that, but by virtue of that, it's hard to then mine comedy out of things that don't want comedy. It is interesting. You kind of we'll sometimes try to put comedy into a thing and it just kind of gets spit right out at us. And then sometimes the scenes that usually work is we'll write it very straight. A good example is this season. There was a scene where NoHo Hank and Cristobal had to do a pitch to a bunch of criminals, and initially it was written in like a warehouse, and there was and the joke was more that there was food laid out for them, and it was this kind of thing. And then Duffy Boudreaux and I read it, and we worked on it, and it just was like a very straight scene of them pitching this thing to these crime guys. And then you start to do kind of you write it straight, and then you kind of do like a mystery science theater on it, where you can do with movies where you just start to make snide comments or make surreal, like stupid comments. And then it turned into us going, well, if this was at Dave and Buster's, and I was like, oh, what was it, Dave and Buster's, and what if we did this thing and it's in the show now? But that tends to be a thing where it works, something like Sally being attacked at the end of last season. There shouldn't be anything funny in that, you can't really make that funny, but it's honest, So when people talk about the tone of the show, I kind of just see it as honesty, what's honest.
One thing that people are going to discover as they watch these episodes is your name crops up a lot in the credits. You are directing every single episode this season, which is, you're no idiot, Bill Hader. You knew this was going to probably break you. This is a lot. This is an undertaking.
I definitely have more weight, and and I put on like 20 pounds between season 3 and season 4. Yeah, just from the sheer stress of it all. But yeah, Aida Rogers, our great producer, kind of came to me at the end of season 3 and said, I think you should direct them all, because it doesn't matter if we had Martin Scorsese directing them, you would be behind their back going, no, it goes over here. No, that needs to go. I think it'll be faster if we can do it this way, and much more efficient.
Did you ever, you do have, speaking of great filmmakers, you have, I think we can say this, right? Guillermo pops in
Guillermo
there.
del Toro, and he has a cameo in one of the early episodes. Yeah, he's great.
Amazing. Did you ever ask like someone in the likes of him? I mean, you had some amazing directors. Let's not, no slouches that have directed the episodes throughout the years. But did you ever ask like a feature prominent director like Guillermo, Edgar Wright, et cetera, to like try their hand at an episode?
No, probably because I would drive them nuts. I think that's the honest answer. Is I would be like, sure you want to, season 1, I was better because season 1, I wasn't that bad. And then season 2, a little worse. Then by season 3, I think I just drove Alec crazy because it was like, good, you did, once you got down to like, why are you on a 50 millimeter lens?
Okay.
Which he's for me is like, that's something you would use to, 50 millimeter to me is like, trying to, a 200 millimeter lens or something, you know what I mean? It's like that's something NASA needs to see the craters on Mars or something. I tend to like things that are a little wider.
It does feel like an amazing, to look at your progression as a filmmaker through this series is pretty remarkable. And what struck me in the episodes I saw, what people have talked a lot about in previous seasons, the Runners, the Ronnie and Lily's episode, et cetera. And this season, like, I feel like actually a lot of restraint from you as a director, a lot of confidence and restraint, and like knowing the power of holding a shot on an actor's faces. You're in love, as you should be, with your actors and your actors' faces. I feel like,
I do think, I think the actors this season, it's hard not to, it is a bit of confidence, and it is just, well, what tells the story? And I think a lot of that comes from a love of old movies too, watching a lot of old films, and you would look through them and kind of count setups. If you watch a scene in an old movie and go, okay, they changed angle there, they changed angle, they only really, it's like 4 setups right there, and it's really intense, amazing scene. You don't need a lot of coverage.
Right.
And so I think that's something that's really important. And so it was having the confidence to just tell the story and try to tell the story through shots. That was very, that's kind of, it's very like kind of Italian. I mean, I guess everybody does it, but I always think of the Italians for some reason of like, the the shot can kind of tell the story. Of all those those great Italian movies in the 50s and 60s. I was watching a lot of those during the pandemic, and all those Polish filmmakers too tend to do that as well. Andrzej Wajda, his early movies I really love. That's all to say, I will do all this and I will work really hard at it, and I'll have all these very cool esoteric influences, and then I watch it in the mix and I go, geez, I like the Coen Brothers.
Sure. And the way Barry Sonnenfeld will throw that camera around, and yeah,
there's
totally.
no way I'm ever going to escape that. Okay, yeah, it's me watching SNL and going, gosh, I like Phil Hartman. You know what I mean? It's just so clear to me.
For most of us, learning a second language in high school or college was not exactly a high point in our academic careers. I know it wasn't for me. I tried Italian, I tried French, and none of it stuck. But now, thanks to Babbel, the language learning app that sold more than 10 million subscriptions, there's an addictively fun and easy way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with family, or you just have some free time, Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. I'm doing Italian because I love to travel and I love going to Italy, and I want to engage the culture in a little bit of a more profound and meaningful way. And yeah, I want to be able to order better in Italian restaurants, okay? Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new lesson and language on the go. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Plus, you can choose from over 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. There's so many ways to learn with Babbel. They've got lessons that you can access, podcasts, games, videos, stories, and even live classes. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free, guys. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code HSC. That's BABBEL.com, code HSC. Hey guys, I'm thrilled to talk about our sponsor this week on Happy, Sad, Confused. It's HelloFresh, which makes my life easier and puts the right kind of food in my body in a timely fashion without all the aggravation of long lines at the grocery store and hard to follow instructions. No, with HelloFresh, they take the hassle out of mealtime by delivering pre-portioned ingredients and easy to prepare recipes right to your door. You can skip those checkout lines. You can actually get outside and enjoy the nice weather this season. HelloFresh keeps your taste buds on their toes too, with 40 recipes and over 100 seasonal and convenience items to choose from each week. With so much variety, there are options literally for everyone in every single lifestyle. And with HelloFresh, you're getting seasonal ingredients picked at the peak ripeness for quality that you can taste and count on. Ingredients travel straight from the farm to your home in less than 7 days, so you know they're actually fresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/HSC50 and use the code HSC50 for 50% off. Plus, your first box ships free. That's right. Go to HelloFresh.com/HSC50. Use that code HSC50 for 50% off. Use HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Without revealing much, there's some big narrative swings in the season. And I think I know you say you don't watch a lot of TV, but back in the day, I can't imagine something like Twin Peaks isn't an influence in some way on you.
You know, I saw the first season of Twin Peaks when I at my friend Mark Pilvinsky's house when I was in my early 20s, and I don't really remember a whole lot of it. But I do love so Twin Peaks is not really. But I do love David Lynch. I mean, I would say Blue Velvet, it was a massive movie when I saw it. Eraserhead, Blue Velvet were huge. Yeah.
Well, there's something to that underbelly in Blue Velvet, right? That kind of like underneath the surface, you just have to scratch at it, and then there's like the most perverse.
Yeah, I felt like the end of season 3 last year, like the stripper and Cristobal, like that whole thing. When I watched it, I was like, oh, this feels very David Lynch-y in a weird way. You
in one of the early episodes, you direct Sarah's character through what seems like a panic attack, a full-on panic attack she goes through in the car. And look, we've talked a lot about your issues with anxiety over the years. It's going to always be a constant issue in your life. I guess what's it like for you as a director, directing another actor through something that I would imagine you've probably gone through in your life?
Well, Sarah's so good that you can just say, have a panic attack. And I think the thing I've learned, and I try to stick to it, and I'm bad at it sometimes, is you try to let the actor on their first take just do their thing.
Sure.
And then you come in with notes and you try to make the notes simple. This is my goal. I screw it up all the time. Even we just did reshoots a couple months ago, and I immediately gave one actor way too many notes, and they said, "Can you please stop it with the notes?"
Right.
And then one actor, I gave him a big note before they did their first take, and then I had to go over and be like, "Okay, forget what I said. Just do what you were gonna do. I think I steered you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, just a little faster. That's it.
Yeah, just a little faster. You know what you're doing. Let me just get what I said." But in that scene, it was a thing of like, let Sarah do it. And then it was like, it's just a degrees. Like, she's so good. She comes up with a lot of stuff that you kind of go, oh, I like this. I like this. I think we could go a little bit. I think let's try one a little bit bigger. And then Romy, who plays her mother, you're just trying to find a fun juxtaposition between them.
Yep.
And that's a good example of a scene that I had planned to be covered with a couple of different shots. And then when we shot the wide shot first, and Gavin Kleintop and our first AD and Carl Hersey, the DP, just kind of looked at me knowing like, the whole thing could just play in this. And I was like, yeah, I don't think we need these other shots. Let's just do the insert of the phone. And then I think we can go, and then you just kind of call it. But that would not have been, I would not have been like that season one,
right?
Or possibly even season two. I still would have shot everything.
I think what's also gratifying for folks that are going to come back to this after having watched the first 3 seasons, and this was evident in the first season, but I think it really struck me watching this season is, yes, the name of the show is Barry, but this is such an ensemble show where you really have a full sense of each of these ensembles' lives and the damage that Barry or themselves have done to themselves, and how they're reckoning with the damage of the past three seasons, 3 years, whatever time frame this is. I'm curious, do you find that they're all on the same journey in effect in season 4? In broad strokes, they kind of are all dealing with the same issues.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I always said this season, all the characters have Barry's disease, which is I have this thing that keeps getting me in trouble, but is that who I am? Is that a thing I can get rid of? Is that my nature, or can I change it? And I think what you'll see as the show goes on is that some way that you can change that is by acting, is by trying to be someone else, is putting up a persona of what you want to present to the world. And by putting that persona up, you can be that version of yourself that you want to be.
Right. And
it's like, how long can you sustain that?
Is that something that you connect with on any personal level of trying?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely aspects of my personality I don't like. And you're always trying to work through them. But, and I do, as you get older, real bad things happen to you. And so you need
we accumulate the bad shit just in the course of a life.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, what do you do with it?
Right.
And when we're writing this show, there is most of the people who work on the show are around my age, or close to my age, and have experienced this stuff. So they relate to it, so it's a thing that you're writing towards, and it's and everybody from the writers, with Duffy Boudreau and Liz Sarnoff, or even, Aida Rogers and Gavin Kleintop, and then our editors, Ali Greer and Frankie Gutman, while we're watching and kind of honing the story, it's really helpful to have people go, that doesn't feel real. Right. That just doesn't ring true to me, or that bumps me that he wouldn't have a reaction to that, or that she doesn't care about that. And there is stuff in the show, I will say, by virtue that it's 30 minutes and there's a lot happening, that you do kind of gloss over things that, okay, in reality, this would be a full conversation or whatever. Sure. But some of that is just storytelling, you know?
Right. But you were saying before, it is about the emotional honesty.
Emotional honesty is the most important thing. So as long as it feels emotionally true and it comes from a place, basically, you basically try to take something from your life or a feeling you've had in your life, and then you exaggerate it to a place that feels entertaining. But it could be something super small, but then you can make it a bigger deal, but it's still the same emotion.
How often does Unforgiven come up in the writer's room? Because even as I was watching, even again, not revealing anything, but by end of episode 7, I'm like, I feel like we're about to like go Unforgiven.
Yeah. I think episode 7 is, that's it is. I actually, you know what? Unforgiven doesn't come up as much as it did early on, and I don't know if a lot of the writers have even seen Unforgiven. You know, I know Alec and Duffy and I liked Unforgiven, and especially like the kind of ending of it and everything, and that was really reflected at the end of season 2,
right?
That taxi driver Unforgiven thing, but.
And for the audience, that may have been a minute since they've seen Unforgiven, which is essentially about this character played by Clint Eastwood, William Money, who is denying or trying to escape who he was, his nature. We're talking about, right? And his nature is he's a stone cold killer. He's a motherfucker of a killer, and it ends. And I remember this when I was a kid watching it, in this kind of like catharsis where he kind of returns and becomes with what he was. And the weird part was the audience kind of cheered. Like it was like a great moment.
They get it. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, it was like you wanted to. Yeah, there's parts of the audience that really just wants to see Clint Eastwood like blow away some dudes.
Yeah.
And the idea that was powerful to me about that movie was you grew up. It's very much for a certain generation, but if you grew up watching a lot, like Clint Eastwood movies were on TV constantly, and you'd watch a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, and it was always him blowing people away indiscriminately. And for him to make a movie kind of commenting on that and going like, yeah, okay, the real version of this is a guy who's very lonely and very sad and hates himself.
Right.
I mean, that's the real version of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so for me, early on, it was like, oh yeah, I'd be interested in exploring that. But if that guy, if William Money went and hung out with the people from Waiting for Guffman, you know, that was the initial thought, you know.
Amazing.
Hey guys, I'm thrilled to tell you about one of our sponsors today. This is Masterclass, something I've been using for a long while. This is an amazing opportunity for you guys because with Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. I've used this myself many times. You want to learn about acting from Samuel L. Jackson? How about directing classes from the likes of, I don't know, Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese, Jodie Foster, Werner Herzog? They're all there. Over 180 of today's most brilliant minds are available anytime, anywhere on an iOS, Android, desktop, Apple TV, Amazon, Fire TV, Roku, you name it, you can access Masterclass. And you can digest these in small increments. You can go at your own pace. There are these amazing supplemental materials that are available. This is the best deal in town, guys. I truly use and love this service and couldn't recommend it more highly. You can get unlimited access right now to every class. And as a Happy Sad Confused listener, you can get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/HSC now. That's masterclass.com/HSC for 15% off Masterclass.
So this is arguably the second biggest professional closure, ending of a chapter in your life. And, you know, in some ways, though, to me, it feels like as much of it's an ending, it's really kind of the launching pad for what seems to be the inevitable next phase of your career, which is to be filmmaker, storyteller, a director, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the aspiration. That's the next path,
Yeah.
right?
That was always the thing I was most interested in. Yeah.
So do you, but on any level, do you feel any similar feelings through what you went through at the end of SNL to what you're feeling now, or does it feel by virtue of what it is totally different?
Yeah, it's SNL was you were part of a bigger machine, and SNL was hard because the work at SNL by the end, especially, it was always, I think, consistently very hard for me, which I've talked about a lot. And I always want to make clear, people were nice. It wasn't like the place was mean or whatever. It was my own personal mental problems making the show. Doing live comedy every week was very tough on me mentally. And so I was very happy that was going to be over with, but I was horribly sad at having to say goodbye to all these people I'd worked with so closely for 8 years. So it was very bittersweet in that way. And I was moving to Los Angeles from New York. So it was a giant shift. And in Barry, it's a different feeling of, oh, thank God I got to tell this story and write the end of the story. And I'm very proud of it. But it's a similar bittersweet thing of, oh, I don't get to go and work with these great actors and crew. We have our premiere on Sunday, and we have a big premiere event. And, I know like that could be the last time I see some of these people, and I'll probably be very emotional because I really, you sit there and I could sit in my room and come up with a story, and you can write, in your room, Barry takes a motorcycle and this whole motorcycle chase happens and it's on a freeway, and you write this all up. And then it's like this massive effort of shutting down a freeway and like getting all these people and all these technicians and these artists and all these brilliant people, to help you with your idea. And so it can go from that to the close-up of Sarah Goldberg at the end of season 3, when Barry's telling her like, Barry Berkman did this, and you have that moment, which we didn't write. It just happened in the moment. And you go, I can't believe this actress is going there for me, for my idea, she's going there for it. And so I'm always so appreciative. So that kind of love and respect I have for all the people who work on the show. That's the hardest thing, saying goodbye to all of them.
I confess I'm really not sure what your directing career is going to look like. And I say that as an exciting thing. Like, I'm not sure, like, and when we talk in like 10 years about like the last 3 films you directed, like, do you have in your mind like a very specific kind of path you're going down? Like Jordan Peele, to use the kind of the analogy, like he decided on a very specific kind of lane and he's killing it, right? Like, are you wedded to a very specific kind of lane of film of that you want to make as a director?
I always, I have 3 ideas and they're all very different, and I think it'd be interesting to, as an actor, I always like to swerve a bit, where you would do something like Superbad and then be in, Skeleton Twins and then It Too, and it's fun to kind of do different things. But I wrote a feature film during the pandemic with Duffy Boudreau, who's a writer on the show. He's also my best friend. We've known each other since we were 15. And then he and I had 2 other ideas. One is kind of hard to explain, but the other one was more of like Barry and Tone, but instead of a crime story, it's more of a horror story that I would be in that one if we end up doing that one. But yeah, it's like more interesting it's interesting to me to try, because I like a lot of different things. And I think that's why I was kind of happy that Barry was ending, because I'm like, oh, I like this, but I like to try. The people I always respond to were people who, one of my favorite Scorsese movies is Age of Innocence. And I just remember going to see that in the theater.
I have that poster in the other room. I love Age of Innocence.
I love that film so much. And I just remember seeing it. I mean, this is so fucking cool that he made this.
I know.
I mean, and that you could grow up and say the guy made Age of Innocence, the guy made Goodfellas,
and Cape Fear and Kundun, and it's like, come on,
Kundun, just the variety and but the consistency of the films was always there. So the dream would have something like that. But like I've learned with my career, man, it's like I moved to LA in 1999. I was like, I want to be a writer director, and then somehow 6 years later was on Saturday Night Live,
right?
And I never considered that a thing or a thing that would ever be possible, So, and then I got Saturday Night Live, and it's like, okay, the whole thing was like, you're going to be in movies, you're going to be in movies, you're going to be in movies. And then it's an HBO show that brings me this. And it wasn't until the HBO show started happening that I was like, oh, maybe I could direct some of these and direct, Up until that point, it was very, you're an actor, you're going to do that. So anytime I kind of go one way in my experience, something else comes in, and then you go over here. And so
not to mention, it wasn't even like, I feel like TV wasn't a director's medium until like the last 5 or 10 years. It wasn't even considered like a place where directors could really show off and tell narrative, own the narrative themselves. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I will say point blank, I mean, the guy that I look at is Hiro Murai. I mean, I remember seeing Atlanta and just going, the first time I watched a TV show and I went, who directed this?
Right.
And how can we get him to direct episodes of Barry? So I found him incredibly inspiring. I still find all his work so inspiring.
Have you taken the Marvel meeting, the James Gunn meeting? Like, is there a place for you in that world, whether as a writer, director, or actor, that you could see yourself in, just because it is such a part of a giant part of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I always felt like it's all really great stuff. I think again, I never say never to any of these things, but as of right now, today, I'm really interested in trying to have my own little corner of the sandbox to do my thing. And so any of those meetings, I really just don't want to waste anybody's time, because I'm like, I'd like to try to do this.
Right.
Like, let me try this. And I don't want to because the other thing you can do, I've learned because I've done it, is you can really feel like you're doing a lot of work in Hollywood and you're doing nothing. You're just taking meetings and you're developing tons of stuff.
Yep.
And years go by and you go, we haven't shot a single thing.
Yep.
And so for me, and the way my brain works, I have to be able to kind of just focus on one thing and see where that takes you. And if it takes you to a place that works, great. If it takes you to a place and you go, okay, I did that, didn't really turn out the way I wanted it. They'll have a meeting with me over here. You know what I mean? Right. And you go over there, or you do a thing and something else happens from a place that you didn't. It's kind of like what I said before. You just don't know what's going to happen. But
yeah,
my attitude about that right now is like, I love what you guys are doing, but just, for me, it's much more of a personal, almost personal curiosity.
Yeah.
Can I try this first?
I did go down the rabbit hole when I knew I was catching up with you from some of our sketches, some of our conversations. Our 2 sketches over the years are 2 of my favorites. Both of them somehow, and I don't know if I wrote this or you improvised this, both of them really involve you spitting a lot of things in my face.
Yeah.
You're a ghost that haunts me when I inadvertently killed you. And then you
great costume.
Great costume. we were on a budget at MTV then. And then you ended up cutting off your own hand because you were so upset I kept spoiling things for you, and you spit in my face multiple times. I don't really have a question, except I miss doing that crazy shit with you. And I guess my question is, do you miss comedy? Like, I mean, obviously there's comedy in Barry, but like, what is that a hole that needs filling occasionally, or what? Like,
I do sometimes. Yeah. I got to do a part on Curb Your Enthusiasm where I played these 3 brothers. And that was like a nice thing where it was like really big and broad and fun and silly. And you're getting to work with Larry David and, it's so much fun, but but yeah, like, and that might come back. It's some of these other ideas I'm playing with are much more fun, like just capital K comedy type of things.
Right.
I always think like the emotion has to be there.
Right.
That's that's always the balance of all that stuff. But I will say I've been on a text thread since the first day of the pandemic. I've been on a text thread with Fred Armisen and John Mulaney, and it's been going on pretty much every day since for the last 3 years. And it's very funny.
Was there ever a consideration of having, I mentioned Keith Morrison at the outset, of having Keith Morrison or Josh Mankiewicz do a special Dateline episode devoted to the events of Barry?
Oh, that would be funny. Oh man, no, we never thought about that because I didn't want to
cross the streams, basically.
On the spot. Yeah, I didn't want to you just don't want to make it too reverential of like, oh, he used to play him on Saturday Night Live, and you're disappearing up your own ass a bit. But I love those guys. I love Josh Mankiewicz so much because I love Keith Morrison, obviously, but I love Josh Mankiewicz because he always says, "You didn't do that, did you?" Which I love.
Do you have the phenomenon?
911. You didn't do that, did you?
You must have the phenomenon of running into people on the street that obviously want to reference Stefan and all the characters, but then they probably feel compelled for whatever reason to do their bad version of your own characters.
Oh yeah, that happens. Yeah. That's happened before. Yeah,
but and like, are you there to judge them? Are you there to say?
I just go, oh, that's good. Yeah. But, I've done that too, though, where I've met somebody. I mean, I've at SNL and you would say, oh, remember when you said and then you're doing it, So right. I've been guilty of that too. And I get really kind of starstruck by somebody. It's like, remember when you did the thing where sure. I think I did it to Martin Short recently. And he was like, yes, Bill, I was there. It's like you did.
I recall. Yes,
exactly. I recall when I did the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I did a thing with Martin Short the other day, and I had to restrain myself from going full Jiminy Glick on him because.
Oh yeah, the Jiminy Glicks were classic, and I showed my kids Clifford, and they were like, "This is the darkest, weirdest movie I've ever seen." They loved it.
Speaking of, how is the education of the children in terms of film classics? Are they on the same page with you? Have you had some differences?
Yeah. The other day we watched Rear Window, and when it started, they were like, "Oh, this movie's old," and then by the end of it, they were, like that the whole time, and they were freaking out. It was so fun. And I watched this old John Sturges movie called Jeopardy, with Barbara Stanwyck. And I had my kids had a big slumber party at their house, at my house, their house, my house, and they were upstairs, and I was downstairs watching a movie, and slowly the kids were coming down there watching the movie with me, and it was really sweet. It was them, and they were going, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" Because it's kind of a thriller.
Yeah.
And that was really nice, that was really sweet, to the good storytelling. Nothing trumps good storytelling.
Right. Do you feel any resentment that all the emotional connection audiences felt with BB-8 seems to have been transferred to Grogu in recent years? Like you and Ben Schwartz were responsible to some degree for BB-8's sweetness and charisma, and now that little twerp has taken it all from you.
Well, I don't know what Grogu is.
You don't know? You haven't watched Mandalorian?
I don't watch anything. No. But no, I will say, I always say BB-8, that's like, it's kind of I don't know why. I mean, it's very sweet that J.J. Abrams put my name on it, but I came in and did stuff like voice stuff for it that didn't work. And then he brought me in later and said, hey, do you want to do this? It was like a Peter Frampton talk box thing. And then I did that. And the reason he hasn't had me come back to do because anybody can do that. It really is like, it's like a machine that you can operate.
Right.
So it's not like I did some voice stuff that just didn't work,
Right.
So I'm not really sure what Ben did, but I mean, I just know that was my experience doing it. So it is weird that I did that, and I get asked about it still. And we'll be on location, and there'll be these guys with these little BB-8 dolls.
Oh, and you'll sign them or whatever. Yeah.
I do not sign them. I don't sign them.
I will not.
I'm not signing them. I'm not signing those. Yeah. I can't. I'm bad. Autograph people don't like me. I won't sign things.
Really? What are the do's and anything, or is it a specific kind of characters you just not?
I just don't sign anything because they use it. I just don't. You know what it was? I used to sign stuff, and then one time I saw somebody and they had their kid come up to me to sign a BB-8 thing, and it was 3 a.m. I was leaving the Inside Out premiere, and then we went to like an after party thing, and it was super late, and this guy kept his kid up all night to like go over there so he'll sign it so I can sell it online.
That's fucked up. Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucked up. And so now I just have a blanket, like I'm not signing any of this shit.
No, I respect it. All right, let's end with some really important, provocative questions. This is the Happy, Sick, Confused, profoundly random questionnaire. You ready, Bill?
Yep.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. What do you collect?
I collect Blu-rays, DVDs, and books.
Physical media. Come on. Sometimes the cloud will disappear one day, and where
the cloud is going to disappear. During the pandemic, I went a little crazy and just bought so much stuff because I was like, if the internet somehow goes down, I'm gonna have to to be able.
Where's my Hudsucker Proxy DVD? Yeah.
Yeah. I have to be able to watch A Man Escaped by Bresson now.
When Criterion goes down.
How? I've got to be able to watch. And now I just anytime I like a movie, I buy it.
Right. Yeah. What's the wallpaper on your phone?
It's a picture of my kids.
This is the correct answer. Would you ever skydive?
No. Hell no.
Would you rather have dinner with Vin Diesel or Daniel Day-Lewis?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
What's the last actor you were mistaken for?
I'm always mistaken. Well, I always was mistaken for Rainn Wilson. And then the last actor I was mistaken for was Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son.
Jack Quaid.
And I was like, that guy is way skinnier than I am. That guy is in shape. And he's like half my age. Please do not tell him. I'm really like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great compliment to you.
Him that he looks like me, because that would suck. Please don't tell him he looks like me. This boy came up to me and goes, I love the boys. And then he went this. Oh, wait.
He got close. No, never mind.
He got close and went, oh shit, never mind. Oh God, yikes.
What's in the briefcase at the end of Pulp Fiction?
Oh, I think it's a giant Wonka bar. Big golden ticket. That's why they're so freaked out, because it's just like the golden ticket.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it just closes. It's like, we're going to have to go to the factory.
What a sequel that would have made. Yeah.
Over.
What's the most annoying thing about you, according to your kids?
According to my children, oh man, that's a laundry list. That's too many. I don't give them fair warning about anything. I kind of just go like, we're going here, but get off that, It's like, you got to give me 5-minute warning that I have to wrap up this phone call. Please don't just come in, So I relate to that too as a kid. I remember my parents coming in and being like, get off the phone. You're like, can I just have 5 minutes?
All right. Finally, in the spirit of Happy, Sad, Confused, an actor that makes you happy, Bill.
Oh, an actor that makes me happy?
Yeah. When they show up on screen, you're in for a treat.
Oh man. An actor that makes me happy. There's so many. That's why it's like my brain just froze.
Too many.
There's too many. But I really love Diane Keaton. Diane Keaton in the 70s. no one is better than Diane Keaton, and I've met her before, and I just don't know what to say to her. Yeah. I think she's still just amazing. I love anything Diane Keaton's in something, I'll watch it. I just think she's amazing.
Yeah, and there's no one like her. Like, she's on her own wavelength, right? She's just
on
like
her own wavelength.
Frequency. Yeah.
I've never seen anybody who could be in Love and Death and Sleeper and Annie Hall, but then is also in The Godfather, and then was in Reds. And then Shoot the Moon, that movie. She's unbelievable in that movie. So she's just somebody that I've always just really admired. Yeah, just forever.
I think Love and Death was one of the first movies I ever committed to my brain.
Yeah,
just like knew by, yeah. Wheat, Fields of Wheat. What movie makes you sad?
Oh, makes me sad. I mean, the obvious one is Come and See. That's a really hard watch. But it's great. And I really love the film. A movie I cry at is a movie called Kess. That's a British movie called Kess. Movie gets me.
And finally, what food makes you confused?
Makes me confused.
Yeah.
I would say anything. I would say a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because it can kill me because I have a nut allergy.
That's cause for confusion.
So I'm confused of how this thing could have so much power over me. You know.
And how every 12-year-old can eat it and how it can kill me.
Yeah, it's just I'm just easy to beat, bad guy, you know. Just you put peanut butter on those things and I just be like, I don't know, you know, it'd just be terrible.
Yeah. Well, I miss seeing you in person where you could have the opportunity to spit in my face for a good cause.
Next time you'll see it. One time you'll just be walking down the street and something will hit you in the face. And that'll be me.
Classic hater. Everybody should check out Going Out in Style, season 4 of Barry. I can't wait to see the finale, man. Congratulations. Take a breather, enjoy the moment. And I'm really honestly excited to see what comes next, man. Let's keep talking.
Man. I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks, man.